The rules were clear, no hands. That's what the Galactic War College decreed when Cadet Evelyn Sato stepped onto the artificial war terrain for the final simulation. It wasn't out of fairness. Not really. It was fear masked as fairness. After 3 simulations, 3 victories, and 37 disabled alien cadets, the command staff had intervened. Excessive use of upper limbs, the Keltarian adjudicator had said. Borderline inhumane. Evelyn hadn't flinched. She wasn't raised to flinch. Raised in the gravel-ridden outskirts of Osaka Dome. Trained in 4 martial arts by age 7. Fluent in body language before she could read. The daughter of Earth's last active combat instructor. They thought banning her hands would break her. It only made her sharper. The war game wasn't a game at all. The simulation spanned 6 square kilometers of programmable terrain, desert, jungle, urban ruin, populated by a dozen teams from across the galaxy. The objective was simple: conquer the command node and disable all opposition. For most species, that meant heavy armor, squad coordination, and drones. For Evelyn, it meant silence, speed, and limbs honed like blades. She stood alone. That was part of the challenge. Earth always sent only 1 cadet. Not because they were short on soldiers, because they only needed 1. As the simulation launched, Evelyn was dropped into Sector 5. Jagged cliffs, ash-gray rocks, and roving wind that bit like razors. She landed softly, the drop pod his fading behind her, and flexed her shoulders. Then she remembered, no hands. She slipped them into the carbon-threaded bindings issued by the Council. Decorative to some, but binding to her. They'd monitor neural signals. Any attempt to use her fingers or palms would result in disqualification. Good. That made it fun. The first team to spot her was a group of Coralites, 6-legged arachnid tacticians who relied on elevation and distance. They perched high on cliff edges, scanning with thermal optics. Evelyn crouched low and moved like shadow incarnate. They underestimated how quiet a human could be when she wasn't relying on tech. She closed the gap without alerting a single sensor. Then she struck. She swept the legs out from under the first sentry with a reverse crescent kick that launched it straight into another. No pause. She backflipped into the center of the group, landed on a rock, and spin-kicked a Coralite off the cliff edge. Another lunge with a plasma spear. Evelyn ducked low, caught its leg with hers, twisted midair, and snapped the joint with her heel. 5 down. 1 remained. It scurried back, antennae vibrating with panic, and activated its beacon. Evelyn launched herself forward, planted both feet into its chest, and rolled its body down the cliffside. It hit the bottom with a crunch. She walked away without a scratch. Sector cleared. By hour 2, she had taken out 3 teams. A squad of Orvik brute strikers, each twice her size. They came stomping through the ruins of Sector 9 like living tanks. She didn't face them head-on. She used terrain. She climbed using only her elbows and knees, waited on a broken tower ledge, and when one walked beneath, she dropped, feet first, onto its back. Her heels shattered its oxygen tanks. The rest tried to circle her. Mistake. She cartwheeled into a spinning scissor kick, sweeping 2 of them like leaves in a typhoon. The third tried to grab her. She leapt, used its shoulder as a step, and launched herself into a triple flip that ended with both heels crashing down on its helmet. They called her barefooted. They didn't know Earth trained killers in ballet before they were trained in combat. News of her movements spread through the other sectors. Teams began to panic. They set traps. They laid mines. They set up turrets and used drones to scan every footstep. Evelyn adapted. She began fighting without even touching the ground, vaulting over barriers with only knee power, springing off walls with her toes, balancing like a dancer over shattered rebar. The 4th team used sonic disruptors, thinking the frequencies would paralyze her inner ear and ruin her balance. She closed her eyes and listened to her heartbeat. 1-2, 1-2. She let rhythm replace balance. Her foot broke their sonic transmitter in 2 precise strikes. By hour 5, only 2 teams remained, Zorn Mechanists and the elite Varkalized Strike Squad. The Zorn hid inside mobile bunkers, using heavy artillery and protective armor. Evelyn scouted their patterns, counted rotations, and when one opened a hatch to relieve itself, she was already there. A kick to the throat, then she slipped inside. What followed was a quiet, terrifying slaughter. One by one, her feet found gaps in armor, weak joints, exposed circuitry. She used a confined space to bounce off walls, kicking with ferocity and precision, never once using her hands. The last Zorn dropped to its knees, shaking, and Evelyn bowed slightly. No words, just a look that said, "You tried." The Varkalai squad was different. Elite, ruthless, cybernetically enhanced, trained on 17 different planets. Their leader, Commander Tavar, had studied human combat tactics for years. He knew her reputation. He had even campaigned for the handban. A human without her hands is just a bipedal animal, he had said at the pre-simulation briefing. Now he waited in Sector 12 command node, his soldiers ready, drones in the air, every approach guarded. But he didn't know she was already inside. She had climbed a canyon wall at night, pressing her elbows and knees against the ice-slick rock. It took 4 hours. No lights, no signal, no sound. She slipped through a ventilation tunnel, using only her shoulders and feet, curled like a predator in silence. She dropped behind 2 Varkalai guards and neutralized them in a heartbeat. 2 kicks, 1 breath. Now she was here, inside the core. They spotted her when she vaulted into the atrium, flipping through midair and knocking 2 drones from the ceiling with nothing but the wind of her motion. The Varkalai moved instantly. Shock rifles, stun charges, pulse blades. Evelyn was already among them. She ducked a blade, slid under a volley of rounds, and countered with an upward double kick that knocked one cyborg out of simulation. She used another as a springboard, launching herself higher, twisting midair, and kicking 2 more in a spinning arc that sent their neural implants into stasis. Tavar moved then. Fast. Too fast for most. But Evelyn wasn't most. He lunged with a blade. She jumped backward, landed on her toes, and kicked the weapon from his grip with a lightning-fast side thrust. He countered with a punch. She wasn't allowed to respond in kind. So she dodged and used only 1 foot to lever herself upward, spinning, landing a blow on his spine. He grunted, turned, caught her leg, but she twisted, snapped her other leg up, and hit him across the temple. He reeled. She pressed the attack. 20 seconds. 9 kicks for broken circuits. 1 collapsed commander. She stood alone in the center of the command node, surrounded by unconscious bodies. The simulation paused. Silence. Then the voice of the High Marshal echoed. Simulation complete. Human Cadet Evelyn Sato has secured the command node. All other teams eliminated. Time to victory, 5 hours, 43 minutes. Efficiency, 97%. Penalty violations, none. Gasps rippled through the observation chamber. Across the galaxy, cadets watched the footage in disbelief. On 10 alien planets, the footage was banned before sunset. But it was too late. The legend had already spread. The human who didn't need hands. The human who fought with feet alone. The human who turned a handicap into a style, a rule into a weapon. And the worst part for the alien academies wasn't the loss. It was the implications. If a single human could dominate the best of them, with both hands tied, what would an army of them do with no rules at all? Weeks later, Evelyn was summoned to stand before the Intergalactic Warfare Tribunal. Some demanded sanctions. Others wanted to declare humans ineligible for war games altogether. But the arbiter merely asked one question. "Do you feel this victory was fair, Cadet?" Evelyn looked him in the eye, calm and unblinking. "You tied my hands. You gave them guns. I used my feet. They lost. That's fair enough." The chamber fell into silence again. Back on Earth, she returned to her training dome. No medals, no interviews. She went straight to the mat and began her warm-up drills. Feet only. Her instructor, an old soldier with one eye and no rank, watched her quietly and asked, "Was it enough?" She shook her head. "No," she said. "Next time I'll fight blindfolded."